Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Witchcrafter deck profile. So I'm really excited to see you guys because this deck is an amazing deck that revolves around using all sorts of powerful in-archetype spells to back up your amazing Witchcrafter monsters to control the board and go in for game. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name searched for a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron, along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing a single copy of Witchcrafter Madame Veer. This card is a great card in this deck because she has the ability that during damage calculation, if your spellcaster monster battles an opponent's monster, quick effect, you're going to reveal any number of spells with different names in your hand, and if you do, your battling monster gains 1,000 attack and defense for each card revealed by this effect until the end of the turn, which is an insane effect to be able to boost your monsters up to get them absolutely massive with this effect. She also has a really powerful effect that you get to quick effect discard any spell to negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls, which is a great effect until the end of this turn, letting you go in for game extremely easily with this card. We then play a single copy of Witchcrafter Golem Aruru. Aruru is a good one-of because she has the ability that when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a spellcaster type monster that you control, or targets it for an attack, you get to quick effect target one card your opponent controls or one Witchcrafter spell in the graveyard, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, return the targeted card back to the hand, which is a really good effect to have a balance, but also lets you get to your Witchcrafter spells or spells in the graveyard with this card's effect, which is super good. She also has the ability that once returned during your opponent's standby phase, return this card to the hand so you can use her over and over again. We then play two copies of Witchcrafter Hane. Witchcrafter Hane is a good 2-of because she's a really good boss monster to combo with your Madame Veer because she has the ability that your opponent can't target other spellcaster monsters that you control with card effects, and you get to quick effect discard any spell that in your hand to be able to target a face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it, which is a great effect just to give you that ability to pop something as a quick effect. We then play three copies of the Fire Witchcrafter. She's a really good normal summon in this deck because she has the ability that during the main phase quick effect, you can tribute this card and then discard one spell card to special summon any Witchcrafter monster from your deck, which a lot of your lower level Witchcrafter monsters share that ability to be able to special summon out your other Witchcrafters from the deck. But her unique effect is that you can banish her from the graveyard and send any Witchcrafter card from your deck to the graveyard, which is a great effect to have that Foolish Burial. And then we play two copies of Pottery. Witchcrafter Pottery is a good 2-of in my particular build. I really like her as a 2-of because she shares the ability of the Fire Witchcrafter that you get to during the main phase quick effect to tribute her, discard a spell to special summon any Witchcrafter from the deck, but her unique effect is that you can banish this card from your graveyard to draw a card and then send a Witchcrafter card from your hand to the graveyard, or if you don't have a Witchcrafter card, you banish your entire hand. But getting that draw is really good in this deck, so she's a great 2-of. We then play a single copy of Witchcrafter Pottery. She's a really good 1-of. I just feel like 1 is totally fine. I go back between 1 and 0 with this card, but 1 copy in this current build is worked out really well for me. But she has her unique effect is if you have no cards in your hand, you can banish her from the grave and then target a Witchcrafter card in the graveyard and add it back to your hand. She also has 2,000 defense points, which comes up a lot in this deck, and I really like her as a 1-of in this particular build. We then play 3 copies of Witchcrafter Jenny, which is arguably the best one in the entire archetype. I really like this card because she has the ability that during your main phase you get to quick effect to tribute this card and then discard one spell, special summon a Witchcrafter monster from your deck. And she also has her unique effect that you can banish this card and one Witchcrafter spell from the graveyard, and this card's effect becomes that spell's effect. And when this card is activated, which is a really good effect to be able to just basically copy any Witchcrafter spell that you need. The only downside is you do have to banish that Witchcrafter spell, so you don't get its effect to be able to bring it back over and over again, but being able to get that one power spell off with this card can basically end the game sometimes. We then play 3 copies of Cyframe Gear Gamma. Gear Gamma is really good to be able to use because all of your Witchcrafters resolve off field, so if you normal summon one of them and then tribute them to get them off the field, you can use Gamma to protect them, so this card is a really good card. We play a single copy of Driver as well for the Gamma, so we get the full play to be able to go in for all sorts of different plays, and we have a really amazing Synchro monster in the extra deck that helps us as a tech card with this lineup. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Reasoning. Reasoning is really good because we play all sorts of different levels with our Witchcrafter monsters. And plus, with this card, you can basically get your Witchcrafter spells to the graveyard, which is super, super good. We then play a single copy of Magician's Restage. Now, this is a newer card that I put into this deck, and it's worked out really well because it's kind of like a Monster Reborn, because it has the ability that you get to target one level 3 or lower spellcaster type monster in your graveyard to special summon it. And this effect can only be used once while this card's face up on the field, and if this card is sent to the graveyard, then you can add a Magician continuous spell from your deck to your hand, which I do play a single copy of Magician's Right Hand that has the ability to negate the effects of your opponent's first spell card or effect that resolves each turn while you control a spellcaster type monster, and if you do, you get to destroy that card, which is a really good effect. I also play a single copy of Magician's Left Hand, which has the ability that you get to negate the effects of the first trap card or effect that resolves each turn that was resolved by your opponent, which is a really good effect to basically have you a spell and a trap negation that's also searchable off Magician's Restage. I have considered bumping up Magician's Restage to multiple copies in the deck, but I don't feel like I play enough low-level Magicians in the deck to play more than just one copy of it. We then play a single copy of Witchcrafter Scroll. Witchcrafter Scroll is really good because it has the ability to, once per turn, when a spellcaster monster destroys a monster by battle, you can draw a card, which is really, really good. It also has the ability that you can only use one of the following effects of this card per turn, that if a Witchcrafter monster you control would discard to activate its effect, you can send this card from the field to the graveyard instead, and then during your end phase, if you control a Witchcrafter monster while this card's in the graveyard, you can place this card face up in your spell and trap card zone, which is a pretty good effect to be able to just get this card back over and over again. We then play a single copy of Witchcrafter Bystreet. I feel like Bystreet and Scroll are totally fine as one-ofs, because Bystreet has the ability the first time each Witchcrafter monster you control would be destroyed each turn by battle or by card effect, it's not destroyed, giving you a little bit of protection with this card, and it also lets you activate one of the following effects per turn, that if a Witchcrafter monster you control would discard to activate its effect, you can send this card to the graveyard, and if this card is in the graveyard during the end phase and you control Witchcrafter, then you can put this card back on your side of the field, which is a pretty good effect. We then play a single copy of Witchcrafter Draping. I feel like one is totally fine for draping. It has the ability to target spells or traps your opponent controls up to the number of Witchcrafter monsters you control, return those targets to the hand, and then during the end phase, if you control a Witchcrafter monster while this card's in the grave, you can add this card back to your hand, but you can only use one effect of this card per turn, which a lot of your Witchcrafter spells, actually all of your Witchcrafter spells, share that ability, that if they're in the graveyard and you didn't activate them on the field that turn, you can basically get them back and add them back to the hand, being able to use them over and over again, which is fine, which is really good, and it's fine to play cards like one-ofs, like your Witchcrafter Draping. We then play two copies of Witchcrafter Holiday, which is the monster reborn in the archetype that lets you target a Witchcrafter monster in the grave, special summon it, and then it basically just gives you that monster, which is really good. And it also shares the same ability, just like Draping, that you can add it back to your hand if you didn't activate the Monster Reborn effect this turn, which is super good, and you control a Witchcrafter monster. We then play three copies of Witchcrafter Creation, which is the searcher of the deck, lets you add any Witchcrafter monster from your deck to your hand. I really, really like this card as a 3-of in this build, and is super, super good. Always play 3 copies of Creation. We then play 3 copies of Unveiling as well. Unveiling lets you special summon a Witchcrafter monster from your hand, and if you do, your opponent cannot activate cards and effects in response to the activation of your spellcaster type monster's effects for the rest of the turn, which is super good just to be able to give you that ability to make it so your opponent can't respond to your Witchcrafter's effects. We play 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods because of the secondary effects of all of your Witchcrafters being able to add themselves back to hand with your spell cards, which is super, super good to be able to just send them to the graveyard with Foolish Burial Goods and then get them back during the end phase if you control Witchcrafter monster. And then we play 3 copies of Spell Chronicle. Spell Chronicle is super good in this deck because it has the ability that activate this card by sending your entire hand to the graveyard and banish 5 spells or traps from your deck. Each time your opponent activates a spell or trap or spell card, you place a Chronicle counter on this card. And when that spell card resolves, you can remove 2 Chronicle counters from this card, and your opponent chooses one of your banished cards by this effect and adds it to your hand. And if this face-up card on the spell and trap card zone leaves the field, you take 500 points of damage for each card currently banished by this effect. So this card's a really good card, especially because you have multiple ways in this deck to get those spell cards back. So this card is a really, really good card to banish some of your cards out of your deck. So that's it for the spells, guys. let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're just going to be playing 2 traps, and then it's going to be 2 copies of Witchcrafter Patronus. Witchcrafter Patronus is a good 2-of. I don't feel like you need any more than 2-of, because she has the ability, or this card has the ability, that you get to target one of your spellcast type monsters that's banished or in the graveyard and shuffle it in the deck. And if you do, add a Witchcrafter spell from your deck to your hand, giving you that search, which is super good for this deck. But it has a really good graveyard effect that if this card is in your graveyard, except the turn it was sent there, you can banish this card, then target any number of your banished Witchcrafter spells with different names and add them back to your hand. So it combos very well with your copies of Ginny. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a lot of different link monsters. So we're going to be playing a single copy of Artemis, because Artemis helps us get different attributes in the graveyard and helps us get our Witchcrafters into the graveyard so we can use their effects to be able to banish them for different abilities. But a single copy of Access Code so we can get a bunch of different pops with this card, because we play so many different attributes in this actual extra deck. So this card's a very good card. You can change it out for Borreload or Borrelsword if you're looking for a more budget option. But a single copy of Unicorn to spin stuff, Phoenix to pop spells and traps, Ivy Masquerade because it helps us go into a copy of Unicorn during the opponent's turn, which is very, very good for this deck to go into that copy of Unicorn during the opponent's turn to give us a spin. 1 copy of Lambda, so we basically have the effects of our gammas live at all time, which is super, super good for this deck to have your copies of Gamma live at all times with this card. 1 copy of the Light Charmer, because you can get light monsters out of your opponent's graveyard, and it's really good to help you link climb. 1 copy of the Water Charmer, Fire Charmer, Wind Charmer, and Earth Charmer, because you never know which attribute you're actually going to have and what you're playing against. So I play 1 of each of them currently out, so this is really, really good. You can put the dark one in here as well, but you don't really have that many dark targets in the deck except for your copies of Hain, so I didn't play the dark one in this particular deck. You can play it if you want to for any other card that you want to drop, like a copy of Relinquished Anima, which is an option for you guys. I play Relinquished Anima in the deck because it helps you gobble up monsters, but if you want to play the Dark Charmer to play all 6, you definitely can by dropping this card. 1 copy of Linkuriboh, because Linkuriboh helps us out a lot with our Jennies to get them into the graveyard. Play a single copy of the Chaos Ruler. Chaos Ruler is a great synchro monster in this deck because it has the ability, if this card is synchro summon, you get to excavate the top 5 cards off your deck, and if you do, you get to add 1 excavated light or dark monster from those cards from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect to be able to just add 1 of those excavated 5 to your hand, but also get your Witchcrafter spells into the graveyard. Now, another card you can drop for the new Dark Charmer is a single copy of Psyframe Lord Omega. This card is really good in the deck because it does rip a card out of your opponent's hand, but I usually find myself just going for the Chaos Ruler instead of the copy of Omega, so that is an option for you guys if you do want to play the Dark Charmer. Plus, by playing all the different Charmers, you do have access with the Access Code Talker into every single attribute to get you a pop for every single one of them, which is absolutely crazy. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to play with. I really love this deck a lot. It's actually not that expensive to pick up the Witchcrafters, which is super, super cool because a lot of them have been reprinted. Actually, every single one of them have been reprinted inside of a 10 or a side set. So they're very, very budget. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.